From the Delhi studios of Republic TV, it's time for Arnab Goswami on The Debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I can't find the words tonight as we as a nation have lost our Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, his wife, Mrs. Madhulika Rawat, and 11 officers and staffers, soldiers, in an Indian Air Force chopper crash in Upper Kunnur in Tamil Nadu today. General Rawat was going to the Tri-Services College when the chopper crashed. The court of inquiry has been ordered, and the answers that the families and every mourning Indian across the world seeks will come in time. The images before us are absolutely heart-wrenching, unbelievable. The reality is indigestible. But even with this lump in my throat tonight, we must come together as a nation to pay tribute to the officer that Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat was. General Rawat, leaving us en route his journey to the Defence Services Staff College to inspire fellow aspirants and committed to serving the tricolour, is itself defining. From visiting his troops in Kashmir after the revocation of Article 370, to visiting the forward posts along the LAC during the India-China standoff, even a few days back at Rizangla, General Bipin Rawat was there, always, when his forces needed him. When his forces perhaps didn't say it. When India needed him the most, General Bipin Rawat was simply always there. He was not just India's first Chief of Defence Staff. He was not just a visionary. He single-handedly ensured through action and his characteristically unmincing, thundering words that this new India is powered by a nationalist force and spirit that will take on the world without fear, crutch or favor. The general we lost today is one who put nation first and stared the enemy in the eye and gave it back. No matter the detractors, the non-believers, the mumblers. If it was India first, General Rawat delivered it. The general we lost today is one who steadily led his troops through the operations to reduce insurgency in the northeast, delivered the surgical strikes on Pakistan with precision, and ensured justice was delivered and Indian sovereignty was protected for about 40 years of service. The general we lost today is one who masterminded and executed with his exemplary forces the strategic and masterful integration of Kashmir with the rest of India. We cannot in our history books ever be indebted enough. He was a true soldier for the nation, there every time the call of duty arose. General Rawat will guide the vision of India. His innovation, his modern strategic outlook will script the future of our defence forces. He exemplified what India could be. He personified who India is. General Rawat took great pride in the journey of India. He pledged and delivered in protecting our present, and he scripted a vision for our future as a nation. And so tonight, as we mourn together as one and ready ourselves for that last salute to this great soldier, this great citizen of the country, let us promise as a nation that we will be the nation that is guided with the same grace and spirit which General Rawat led his troops with, the same resolve with which General Bipin Rawat victoriously took on the enemy night and day, and the humility with which General Bipin Rawat selflessly served the flag, and the same unwavering, unrelenting and uncompromising determination with which he put nation first, India first, Bharatiya first, no compromise. Let us be true to that spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, on this special edition of the debate, we are remembering Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat. And here are the headlines tonight. India loses its topmost soldier, Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat. General Bipin Rawat is no more. General Bipin Rawat, his wife Madhulika and 11 others killed in the chopper crash in Kunur. Nation unites to salute one of India's bravest. Mortal remains will be brought to Delhi tomorrow. Group Captain Varun Singh survives, flown to Bengaluru for treatment in a critical condition. Court of inquiry ordered into the Mi-17 crash. The Indian Air Force looks for the black box at the site. And world leaders pay tribute to the general who played a key role in building military alliances for India. Ladies and gentlemen, since the news broke into our newsrooms this afternoon, the nation has been staring at the images from Kunur with shock and horror. We all have been. A soldier who wore nationalism on his sleeve, believed and lived for nation first, a 4-star general, India's senior most serving defence officer. Our first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, his wife and 11 others have been killed in the chopper crash in Kunur.
At 12:20 p.m., a ball of fire in the upper Kunur reaches bang in the middle of a tea estate. At 1:18 p.m., information on IAF chopper crash started trickling in. A few minutes later, there was information that Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat was on board with his wife and 12 other defence personnel.
Helicopter அப்படி வந்துச்சு ஒரே சவுண்டு கருகுமுன்னு சவுண்டு வந்தோடனே கீழே ஒரு மரத்தில் அடிபட்டு வரையிலேயே நெருப்புல வந்துச்சு. நெருப்புல வந்தோடனே இங்கே ஒரு பெரிய மரம் இருக்குது. அந்த மரத்தில் வந்து அடிபட்டோன்னே கீழே அப்படியே தட்டார்னு விழுந்தோன்னா புகை வந்தோன்னே ஒரே தீ. ஒருத்தர் எரிஞ்சு அப்படியே அந்த ஒருத்தர் சாய்தார். மற்றவங்கெல்லாம் வரக்குள்ளேயே பொத்துன்னு விழுகுறாங்க.
Damaged wing of the crashed Mi-17 V5, the body of the helicopter on fire, and charred bodies of those on board being pulled out showed the extent of the crash in the Nilgiris.
அந்த விபத்து எப்படி நடந்தது, அது நீங்கள் அந்த இடத்துக்கு போய் எது மாதிரியான விஷயங்களை சம்பவங்களை பார்த்தீங்க?
ஆனால் நான் அது நடந்து ஒரு நாள் இடத்துக்கு வரலையாருங்க. ஒரு 30 நிமிஷத்தில் அங்கேருந்து வரக்கூடியது. விழுந்த ஒரு 30 நிமிஷத்தில் அங்கே போகும்போது அந்த மரத்தினுடைய இதில் போய் இடித்து அங்கே விழுந்திருக்கு. அந்த லாரி திருப்பி போட்ட மாதிரி இருக்குங்க, குப்புற போட்ட மாதிரி. அந்த ஸ்பாட்லேயே தீ பிடிச்சிருச்சுங்க. தீ பிடிக்காமல் இருந்திருந்தால் அத்தனை பேருமே தப்பிச்சிருப்பாங்க. நல்ல ஒரு வாய்ப்பு இருந்திருக்கும். அடித்து கீழே விழுந்தனால தீ பிடிச்சனால அத்தனை பேர் இறந்துருக்காங்க. ஒரு 13 பேர் மீட்டிருக்கேன். இன்னும் ஒருத்தர் வந்து இது இருக்காங்க, எடுத்துருக்காங்க. எல்லாமே இறந்துருக்காங்க, எல்லாருமே இறந்துருக்காங்க.
அது எது மாதிரியான பகுதி, அங்கே கிளைமேட் எல்லாம் எப்படி இருந்து, நீங்கள் போகும்போது எப்படி இருந்தது?
மிஸ்ட்டுங்க, ஃபுல்லாக மிஸ்ட் இருந்துச்சு. நீ மிஸ்ட்னாலேயா நீ எதுன்னு தெரியல, வண்டி வந்து நேரம் மோதி அப்படியே குப்புற விழுந்திருக்கு. உழுகாமல் இருந்துச்சுன்னா, தீ பிடிக்காமல் இருந்தால் அத்தனை பேர் பொழைச்சிருப்பாங்க. அது தீ பிடிச்சதுனால இறக்குறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு.
Within half an hour of the crash, top commanders of Indian Army and Air Force had rushed to the crash site to monitor the rescue operations. The rescue teams trekked the hills to retrieve the bodies of the passengers.
நாங்கள் ஜிம்கான ஹெலிகாப்டர் கூட்டிகிட்டு போயிருந்தோம். வழக்கமாக நாங்கள் போகிறது தான். மிலிட்ரி ஆஃபீஸர்லாம் வந்தாங்கன்னா ஃபைவ் ஸ்டேஷனில் நாங்கள் போயிருப்போம். நாங்கள் நின்னா தான் வண்டி கீழே இறங்கு, நாங்கள் போனோம் வண்டி கீழே இறங்காது. நாங்கள் காலைல 10 மணிக்கு அங்கே ஜிம்கான டியூட்டி பார்த்துட்டு இருந்தோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்து 12:20 ஆகிடுச்சு, வண்டி இன்னும் வரல. டேக் ஆஃப் ஆகிடுச்சுன்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. இன்னும் ஹாஃப் அன் ஹவர் ஆகியும் வரல. அப்புறம் இடையில எங்கள் மெசேஜ் வந்துச்சு, இந்த மாதிரி ஆக்சிடென்ட் ஆகிடுச்சுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு. அப்புறம் அங்கேருந்து கிளம்பி விரைவாக வந்துட்டோம். மூமெண்ட்லேயே நாங்கள் இருந்தோம். ஸ்பாட்டில் டப்பு நாங்கள் ஓடி வந்து இங்கே இடையில வந்துட்டு எங்கள் 5-6 வண்டி வராது, வழி இல்லை. ஒரு காட்டுக்குள்ளே இருக்குது, நடந்து தான் வந்தோம். ஒரு 2 கிலோமீட்டர் நடந்து வந்தோம். வந்து விரைவாக வந்து செயல்பட்டனால 2 உயிரை நாங்கள் காப்பாற்றினோம்.
Those who witnessed the crash confirmed that a larger tragedy was averted as a chopper crashed just 20 feet from the populated village.
வந்திருக்கோம், காட்டுக்குள்ளே நடந்திருக்கு. நல்ல வேலையாக இது வந்து இன்னொரு 20 அடி மேலே போயிருந்தாலும் இங்கே இருக்கிற நந்தப்பிச்சத்திரம் என்ற ஊரில் உள்ள பொதுமக்கள் மிகப்பெரிய அளவில் பாதிக்கப்பட்டிருப்பார்கள். இப்பொழுது
Those being rescued were taken to the military hospital in Wellington. There was still no clarity on the number of casualties and the identities of those reported dead. Back in Delhi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was closely monitoring the situation. He looked worried as he entered the parliament. A statement was expected on the floor of the House, but was later deferred. Raksha Mantri then headed from South Block to General Bipin Rawat's 3 Kamraj Road house, where he met the family of the CDS briefly. He then left for South Block, where he was monitoring the operations with the Army Chief at DGMO. At around 4:15 p.m, the rescue operations were complete and all eyes were on the official statement that was slated to be released by the Defence Forces. At 6 p.m. on Twitter, the Indian Air Force confirmed the tragic news. General Bipin Rawat, his wife and 11 others died in the crash. At the Cabinet Committee of Security meeting at 7 LKM, Prime Minister, Ministers and NSA Dowal maintained 2 minutes of silence and paid tributes to all those who lost their lives in the chopper crash. Mortal remains of the Chief of Defence Staff and his wife will be brought to Delhi on Thursday. A nation pays tribute to the national hero.
With me tonight, I have Air Chief Marshal Fali Homi Major, former Chief of Air Staff, General Rakesh Sharma, Defence expert and General Bipin Rawat's batchmate. Thank you, sir. General Sharma, can you hear me? Brahma Chalani is with us. Brahma Chalani, thank you. General G.D. Bakshi, General B.K. Bopanna, who was CEO of General Rawat when General Rawat was a young captain. We also have with us General Bipin Bakshi, served together in Kashmir. General Bakshi, can you hear me? Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. May I start, Air Chief Marshal Fali Homi Major, live from Bengaluru tonight. Still coming to terms with the crash itself. This is a route which must have been taken many times in the past. We're getting pictures of the crash. I'd like to put it on the screen. It's a route which must have been taken many times in the past. It's a VVIP chopper. I'm sure all the precautions were taken. So first, were you also completely shocked with the crash itself? We're not getting real reports about the weather condition. We don't know details. What is your first, response to the fact that a Mi-17 in great condition has crashed in this way? Sir.
Good evening, Arnab. Before I answer that, I would like to express my deepest condolences to General Rawat, Mrs. Madhulika Rawat, and all the other passengers on board this helicopter, B-17 helicopter, which unfortunately crashed on this Black Wednesday. Having flown a couple of thousands of hours on the B-17 and having inducted the helicopter into the Indian Air Force and commanded the first squadron, and having operated it under the most trying conditions and terrain from the Siachen Glacier downwards, the reliability of this helicopter is absolutely unquestionable. And given the fact that the CDS himself was flying, there is, or even otherwise, there is no way a helicopter which is not fit to undertake that sortie will ever take off. Arnab, what surprises me in this accident is just one thing. I've done this route many times, both in the Mi-8 and the Mi-17 from Sulur to landing in Wellington. And is just, if I recollect correctly, just about a 15-20 minute flight. And in that short span of time, some catastrophe has occurred. In the absence of any details, it would be, absolutely stupid on my part to even think about what happened. But whatever has happened must have been something very sudden, very serious, and obviously uncontrollable. It is so sad. Just about a couple of weeks back, General Rawat was here in Bangalore for the 1971 war conclave, which was organized by the Indian Air Force. And I had a long chat with him and even mentioned to him that the job that he was doing as the CDS in, bringing about jointness and the refinements in the higher defense management were pretty laudable. I'm really sad to hear this news, and I heard this news as I was taking off from Delhi this afternoon, and I saw this flash on the TV just before boarding the aircraft. And by the time I landed in Bangalore, the TV screens were full of this news, this very sad news. And all I can say now is, may his and all other people's, their souls rest in peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. I don't think, we should not speculate out there, but at the same time, let me run some of the pictures of that crash. And Abhishek joins me in the studio. I'll just run both sides, the pictures of the devastation and of the crash itself, of the moments of the crash, after the crash, I'm sorry. And we are confronting a loss today, all of us, which cannot be erased. And etched in all our hearts is a sense of grief. We look back on General Bipin Rawat, but there is a great, there's questions being raised about the crash itself. Yes. Because the crash of the Mi-17 at 12:20 en route to Wellington from Sulur in Tamil Nadu has caused a loss of 13 of the 14 passengers, included our 4-star General Bipin Rawat. Now you see these pictures, viewers, look at them closely. These are images from soon after the crash, and on the left you will see the fire is still, there's a ball of fire raging at the wreckage site. So there has been a big explosion there after landing. Now the question is, was this on impact or before impact? We don't know, because we do not have a video of the moment of the crash itself. And the destruction is so massive that on the right you will see the trees in and around the area were completely broken, and trees trunk is broken into half, and people are trying to douse the flames. It's clear that despite all the best efforts post the crash, the loss of lives was absolutely inevitable. And you're seeing this wreckage visible from afar on the left-hand side. You're seeing a ball of smoke billowing the forest from a distance. It can be seen showing how big the fire was and how absolutely deep the impact was. It's over a big area. So the entire aircraft has been dismantled. Dismantled either because of the impact of the crash or due to an explosion or due to the fire which engulfed the aircraft. And this has greatly challenged the chances of survival of those on board. And many questions now come back on this. And we are getting more and more details as we look at this. Joined also by General Bipin Bakshi. General Bipin Rawat was awarded the Sword of Honor in the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, 1978. And General Bipin Bakshi was awarded the Sword of Honor from the same IMA, I'm told, in 1982. General Bakshi, how do you remember your friend? You've served together, you've known him well, and can you tell us about the implications of this loss for India's geostrategy, our defense preparedness? General Bakshi, please.
So to begin with, I joined the panelists in deeply condoling and mourning this loss. So as you mentioned, my personal connect, right from the time when I was in India, and he had joined as a young second lieutenant in his unit in Khasa, and I happened to visit that unit. So I've known him since then, and we served together under General Nanavati in Baramulla. So at that time, it was like you mentioned, we were two young majors. Major Bipin Rawat, Major Bipin Bakshi, and General Nanavati. We were the three Sword of Honor awardees who were serving together in Baramulla. Going on multiple times, I've served with him. He visited us in NSG. And as late as 26 November, on the invite of my DG, Ambassador Sujan Chenoy at the MPIDSA, he came to visit us and we met. He delivered a talk to us on the integration of the armed forces, ongoing as a part of the 12th Y.B. Chauhan Memorial Lecture held at our very premises. So it has been a personal connect. It's a matter of great shock to all of us. But I will go on to say that you mentioned in the introduction about the surgical strikes in Uri and in Balakot. But even earlier, as the GOC-3 Corps, he had done things on the Myanmar border. And the term surgical strikes were not used. But he was a true soldier, a decisive leader, a towering personality. And we will sorely miss him. He has been charting new pathways for integration, for improvement of our armed forces, for modernization. I could go on. But yes, it's a deep personal sense of loss too. Thank you.
It is for all of us, sir. It is for all of us, sir. And so much is coming out today about the role, the contribution, and simply the vision of General Rawat. And just to expand on that, General Bakshi is also with us. General Bakshi, one point which I wanted to add here is that General Bipin Rawat's role in setting up the Defence Cyber Agency and the Defence Space Agency as military forces operating under the Tri-Services Command. And what does that tell us? That tells us about his aim for preparing India for future wars. So he was a futurist in that sense. General Bakshi, we're recollecting General Bipin Rawat's contribution. We spoke about it earlier today. Like to hear from you, please. General Bakshi. General G.D. Bakshi, please.
Arnab, here was a man my heart goes out for, because he was a friend. When I was a captain in the Indian Military Academy, he was a gentleman cadet. He got the Sword of Honor and we knew he was marked for great things. He did exactly as we anticipated. I'm so happy about that. He was a man who was brought in to usher change. It is not given to many to usher change on a scale that he was attempting. Tri-service integration is a thorny issue in all armed forces. In the United States, ultimately the US Senate had to ram it down the throats of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, by an act of legislation. Here we had the case of a soldier, one of the from the army now trying to bring about this change, visualize it, actualize it, almost create future shock. He could do it because he has tons of combat experience behind him, staff experience of working in the Military Operations Directorate. He had a feel of how to deal with the bureaucracy, the politicians and the other segments of the state, and he had learnt well how to work the bureaucracy, how to work the system. So he was a man in a hurry. He was working on the integration of the armed forces at the theatre command level, reducing 17 different, single service commands to just 4 theatre commands. Quite obviously, it raised hackles. Quite obviously, people were shaken up by the very scope and depth of the change envisaged. There were Cassandras of doom. There were people who advised him to slow down. There were people who said, look, we are facing so many live threats. Is this the right time to generate organizational turbulence of such a major order? And other services had their reservations, standard reservations, which have been there for all along, and they are not absolutely unfounded. But he had that courage of conviction. He felt this was a change. He genuinely felt that this was a change that was required. It had to be done, and he would do it. And he was blunt and straightforward. He says, I am not here to win an election. If I have to downsize, I will. If I have to reduce costs, I will. So there are many schools of thought. War is an expensive business. There are others who feel, well, if the country doesn't want to protect itself, if it can only pinch pennies on defense, then, I mean, we are asking for trouble, especially when this national security environment is becoming so grim. But he had his vision. He had worked out a plan to actualize that vision. He was a man in a hurry. He was going ahead with it. Cassandras of doom be damned. He was a brave man. He was a man of courage, not just physical courage, moral courage. He was outspoken. He could say it as it is.
Absolutely.
And that is something that in this army has always been respected by the rank and file. A chief who speaks his mind.
Yeah. I'd like to go across to General Rakesh Sharma, Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, a batchmate of General Bipin Rawat. General Sharma, this is devastating news for the whole country, for all of us. I'm sure for you personally. Lot is now being known by the entire country about the contribution of General Bipin Rawat. And as we talk more and we hear more, and as we dive deeper into what he was doing and his vision, the loss becomes something which becomes even more difficult to replace. General Rakesh Sharma, please. Sir.
Well, Arnab, I am deeply saddened and pained today that my cosmate is no more, that great soldier whom I had known at each and every step. He has actually left for the heavenly abode. This tragic incident, very tragic, very sad, and it has sent tremors across not only the army or the armed forces, but the entire countrymen, because he was revered and respected by all and sundry. It's not that you earn respect just like that. I have known him from 1978 onwards because we went together as NDA 52 cosmates there. And I had seen a dynamic and a spark man. Personally, I thought that he was better than most of us, much better than me. Why? Because firstly, he had a discipline in him, because probably from a military background, his father was a general. And second thing is that he had a very logical mind. So from what we call it in Hindi, honhar birwan ki ho chikne par, I saw that in him. I want to give a reference from here, India itself, in the manner it should not be understood in the other way. You see, when we were together in NDA, due to a medical kind of a reason, he was put back by one step. I'm not elaborating, today is not the day. But look at him. He's, if somebody like me would have been there, I would have been demotivated, because that is the stepping stone. But he took it. He said that I will do better. He went back one step, took 3 steps forward. Then we went to IMN and he got the Sword of Honor. That's the greatness of the soldier. A soldier of soldiers. I pay my salute and salutations to my revered and a great warrior. The country will miss him. The armed forces are already missing him. And having known him from NDA onwards, thereafter we served together many places. When we were there in the army headquarters, he was first the vice chief, I was director general operation logistics. And that time too, I found him a very straightforward man, a Gurkha soldier. What he said, he meant that, and he wanted it to be executed, much to the, I would say, sometimes unhappiness of even the polity or the bureaucrats that time. He pushed it. What he saw, what was for the good of the army, what was ailing the army, they did not have rifles, they did not have that. So he pushed for the modernization. It is during his time that the modernization really took a step forward. Second, he ensured that when Uri took place, we were together. We used to discuss the response. He is a strong proponent of a strong military action so that the adversary actually is cowed down. That time he had said, I remember having said that. And look, he started this when he was a corps commander in Nagaland. That was the first real sense kind of a surgical strike that we went across. And it is the same man when he was the chief of the army staff. He executed post the Uri, the surgical strike, and with such kind of a precision. I know throughout the day and night we used to be there sitting out there. So, he is a man who had the vision, like General Bakshi said. He is a very strong man.
Yeah.
He, in fact, his decision made the polity strong. The politicians who had to take strong action, like Ajit Doval and all that, because had somebody else been there, they listened. But he always felt what was right for the country, for the nation, for the army. He said, please execute it. So that is the kind of a soldier that I know of in him. And I have my reverence for him. I salute him. And I say, buddy, I have lost you. You have touched the hearts of everybody. You have broken my heart.
Completely understand your sentiment. We feel so strongly and completely for you losing a batchmate. Abhishek has some updates on General Bipin Rawat's mortal remains, which are being brought tomorrow. Maybe you'd like to share that with our viewers. It's just come in the group, Abhishek.
Well, yes, Arnab. So, General Rawat and his wife's mortal remains are going to be brought by a special military plane tomorrow evening to Delhi. They would be brought to his residence at Kamaraj Marg, and they would be there between 11 and 2 p.m., 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Friday for paying of last respects by dignitaries and commoners alike, and of course the defense forces. Then there would be a funeral procession that would take the last remains to the Brar Square, Delhi cantonment area, where the last rites would be carried out. So that's an update on that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Mortal remains of General Bipin Rawat, Mrs. Madhulika Rawat, Brigadier L.S. Liddar, Havaldar Satpal will be brought to Palam tomorrow. Mortal remains will be at his residence, and a day after tomorrow, ceremonial wreath laying will take place, and after that, the last rites at Brar Square. Thank you so much for that. I would now like to just go across to General Bopanna. General Bopanna, can you hear me, sir? You were CEO of General Rawat when he was a young captain. Like to hear about him from you, please. Thank you, sir.
It's a very sad day for me personally. It's a very sad day to my battalion, the 511 Coker Rifles, the veterans of my battalion, the Indian Army, the armed forces as a whole, and the nation. Bipin Rawat came in to the battalion in 1978, and when I became the commanding officer of my battalion in 1984, he was my first adjutant. A very bright officer. All the previous speakers have spoken so much about it. I won't want to touch upon that. He was a brilliant officer, full of josh, excellent leadership qualities he had, a very good team member, and in a fighting outfit like the 511 Gokha Rifles, we could all make out and say that, look, this is one youngster who will rise very high in service. And indeed, he's done that. Bipin Rawat has done excellently well in service, and the saddest part is, until day before yesterday, I was myself in Delhi. My battalion, the 511 Gokha Rifles, have arrived there in Delhi, and we were all together, along with the other veterans who fought in the 71 war with us, celebrating 50 years of the Battle Honour Bogra and the Theatre Honour East Pakistan that my battalion got. We had such lovely moments. I got back to Bangalore only last night, and look at how fate will take you. it's a very sad day indeed. He has done tremendously well. He set standards for everybody in the battalion so very well that we will continue to remember General Bipin Rawat for all time to come. Our hearts go out to his two young daughters,
absolutely,
Kritika and Tarini, on this day. That's about all that I'll want to taste now.
Well, General Bopana, thank you. I'd now like to go across to Brahma Chelani. Dr. Chelani is a professor of strategic studies at the Center for Policy Research and a fellow at the Robert Bosch Academy in Berlin. I read out your tweet earlier this evening, Dr. Chelani, where you spoke about this time, and you spoke about the China challenge, and you spoke about how there could not have been, I think your words were, a worse time to lose General Bipin Rawat. I'd like you to elaborate on that, please, sir.
Yes, Arnav, you're right. The death eliminates a central figure in India's military plans against China's ongoing border aggression. The fact that this tragedy has happened at a time when India is confronting Chinese aggression, an aggression that began 20 months ago. So the timing couldn't have been worse. Also, another thing about General Rawat in this fight against Chinese aggression was that he was always clear-headed and plain-spoken. He became India's public face on the Chinese aggression, especially because others in the establishment, especially the political establishment, have been so reticent to speak up on the brazen aggression. If you take the example of Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, on Monday, he referred to, quote-unquote, unprovoked aggression on our northern borders. But he didn't utter the word China. But you could always count on General Rawat to name names and call a spade a spade. General Rawat was on his way to the Defense Services College at Wellington when the helicopter crashed, and he would have likely have spoken on China while addressing officers there. So at a time when a warlike situation prevails along the Himalayan frontier, it won't be easy for Prime Minister Modi to fill the void caused by General Rawat's death. Another thing that I find quite striking is that General Rawat's death in a helicopter crash bears an uncanny parallel with the helicopter crash early last year that killed Taiwan's Chief of General Staff, General Shane, and 7 others, including 2 major generals. That helicopter crash, like the one today, eliminated a key figure in the defense against China's aggression. I'm not suggesting that the parallel means that there was any connection between the 2 crashes or there was any sabotage involved. Of course, it's too early to talk about anything. If anything, I think each crash has raised important internal questions, especially about maintenance of military helicopters, transporting important generals, top generals. Now, in the case of the crash today, it has come after the botched counterinsurgency operations in Nagaland. These 2 events, coming one after another, will raise uncomfortable questions in public about the Indian military leadership, about our maintenance. These questions will have to be answered. When the Taiwanese helicopter crashed, killing General Shane, a number of analysts in the US said that the crash showed in unflattering light the Taiwanese defense preparedness against a potential Chinese invasion. But today's helicopter crash has happened amid China's border aggression. So the timing really is terrible for India, because this is not the kind of message that India would like to convey. In fact, India would like to convey a message of determination to resist and defeat Chinese aggression. And I think that given General Rawat's role not just in countering the Chinese aggression, but also integrating the three services and being the key figure in the larger military planning. His death at this juncture is really very unfortunate and tragic.
You raised some fairly straight questions and raised the issue of the crash. Now, the one in which the Taiwanese general, the chief of general staff, General Shen, died was a Black Hawk, and that was, I think, early last year. There were also 13 people on board that chopper. And like, today everyone was hoping that General Shen would have survived. These may be extremely unlinked, there's no conclusion that one can draw, of course. But yes, at least to the level of, how a chopper carrying the topmost military figure can crash between the Mi-17 here and the Black Hawk there will be questions which are very, very serious questions indeed. We'll have to go into it, which takes me to my next point. And please stay, viewers. And as Brahma Chalani said, this was an Mi-17 V5 numbered ZP5164. Now, this is an advanced transport helicopter that has crashed today. And this crash has left everyone shocked. As we come together to mourn, here are the facts about what we know about this crash, which is being investigated.
These are the mangled remains of Mi-17 V5, an advanced transport helicopter that crashed on Wednesday afternoon, carrying Chief of Defence Staff, his wife and 11 others. CDS had departed on the chopper at 11:45 a.m. from Sulur. He was en route his alma mater, Wellington College, to deliver a lecture. 5 minutes before the crash, the communication with the helicopter had snapped. And just 5 minutes before landing in Wellington, the IAF chopper had crashed in Kunnur. The Mi-17 V5 is an advanced chopper that has been in use in the IAF since 2012. The helicopter has an onboard weather radar and latest generation night vision devices.
The Mi-17 V5 helicopters were procured from Russia. India had ordered in 2008, and by 2013, 80 helicopters had already reached India. Mi-17 V5 Russian origin helicopter happens to be one of the capable, one of the most latest transport helicopters, which is used to transport troops as well as VIPs in different terrains.
The crash has claimed 13 lives. Chief of Defence Staff General Rawat, his wife Madhulika Rawat, Brigadier L.S. Lidar, Lieutenant Colonel H. Singh, Wing Commander P.S. Chauhan, Squadron Leader K. Singh, Junior Warrant Officer Das, Junior Warrant Officer Pradeep A., Havaldar Satpal, Naik Gursevak Singh, Naik Jitender, Lance Naik Vivek, Lance Naik S. Teja. Sole survivor in crash, Group Captain Varun Singh, is battling for his life at Wellington Hospital. The Indian Air Force has ordered an inquiry to ascertain the cause of the accident. The investigation team has recovered parts of Mi-17 V5 and search is on for black box that will be key to the investigation.
Air Chief Marshal Falihomi Major, some are using this time when the nation is in mourning the irreparable loss of General Rawat to question the reliability of Mi-17s. And I think they need a fact check. It can probably come from you because you know best. I've been just talking to everyone and they say, Arnab, Mi-17 V5 is an advanced chopper. It's been with the IAF since 2012. It is fitted with TV3 117 VM engines. They are the most technically superior and advanced helicopter version of the Mi-8/17. So to just, to just try and make it out to be this is an antique machine is fundamentally wrong. Air Marshal Major, sir.
Arnab, you're so right. I know this helicopter very intimately, as I mentioned earlier. I inducted this helicopter into the Air Force, the previous version. And there have been many versions, but I think this is the second or the third version, the V5. Now, V5 has incorporated certain advancements. It is a glass cockpit helicopter. It has digitized a lot of things inside. It has a very stable autopilot. It has excellent avionics and navigation aids, a weather radar on board, and a helicopter which has an outstanding safety record. I remember, at least till I was in service, as far as the Mi-17 was concerned, the earlier versions, I think in the entire service of the Mi-17, if I recollect correctly, till I know, there was just one engine failure after having flown hundreds of thousands of hours. Now that speaks very highly of a helicopter of the class of the Mi-17. Now, accidents occur for many, many, many reasons. And as I had mentioned earlier, it's too early for us to even think about what caused this accident. Let the flight data recorder be retrieved from the crash. Let the cockpit voice recorder come out. Okay, and by the grace of God, the survivor, who's a very experienced Air Force pilot, once he comes around, probably he will add some value to the court of inquiry. I mean, as far as the reliability of this helicopter is concerned, there is no doubt in my mind at all. And like Mr. Chelani mentioned, the Black Hawk. Now, Black Hawk is another superbly reliable helicopter. And I think the naval version, our Navy is just going to get 30 of them. And there are hundreds of thousands of those helicopters flying all around, like the Mi-17. And they've proven themselves beyond doubt. So now, to speculate about the helicopter standards and quality at this stage is absolutely improper.
I'm glad you've said that. I just wanted to ask Dr. Chelani briefly, what was found about the Black Hawk crash in January 2020 in which Taiwanese General Shen died? Was something found later? Just curious.
Well, to be frank, Arnab, I don't know the answer to your question. I haven't really looked at that issue closely.
Okay. But Abhishek says here that Global Times, which is seen to be the Chinese mouthpiece, appears to have responded to you, Abhishek, to Dr. Brahma Chelani's tweet. What have they said?
Tweet. So they have tagged Mr. Chelani's tweet and said that this view is like suspecting the US played a role in the crash because India and Russia are moving forward with the delivery of a Russian S-400 missile defense system, which the US strongly opposed.
But why are they responding? Why is a state mouthpiece of the Chinese responding to Dr. Brahma Chelani's overall macro strategic tweet that at this point of time, there was no accusatory finger that Brahma Chelani put at China.
Absolutely.
All he said that at a time when there's a Chinese threat, losing him is bad for India. That's what he said. But the Chinese state machinery is responding to you, Dr. Chelani. I find that very intriguing.
Well, the Chinese state media responds to every article I write now. In the last 2 years, there have been like 14 or 15 articles on me in the Global Times alone. So they follow whatever I write, whatever I publish, and they're responding to my articles and even to my tweets. I wish somebody could get them off my back.
I will go to that later, but General Rakesh Sharma had raised his hand when Air Chief Marshal Faliomi Major was talking about the chopper. Yes, sir. General Sharma.
Well, you see, nothing much about the chopper. Whatever has been said is right. We this is the one of the best helicopters and the choppers in the world, and we have that a very serviceable fleet which has proved its mettle, whether it is the deserts, it is the jungles, it is the mountains or high shoots or anywhere. There have been little bit of hiccups here there, but I would say, no, let's talk of this particular incident. Even in this, the best, the chopper, out of the fleet, whatever we had, the best pilots, the best of the chartering of the routes, navigation, the weather, the terrain, and everything, and I would say best of the sanitization. So I really do not know, you see, whether this is the hand of God, if last that we can rest on. Otherwise, we have the best equipment, we have the best of the pilots, and everything was done. So, so now, trying to fault find our own people or own equipment, I think that's not right.
No, you can't.
Today,
Yeah.
we are here to pay
Absolutely not
tribute
right.
to all the martyrs, to talk about the great,
Yes, sir.
greatness of these people, and talk of the promises of General Rawat, what he's done for the army, the armed forces, as the CDS, and the nation. So that is the first part. And second part that I would say, what was also brought out, the China factor. You see, most of the people have been bashing on Pakistan. He used to tell out there, oh, let's forget about Pakistan. We can always tackle and put it in the back burner. Let's look northwards. And there is another monster which is more, I would say, going to be dangerous to us. That's how we shifted our front. And post Galwan, what happened, like Brahma was saying, he never said words about China, but the way the whole turnaround happened, the way the forces were moved, I pay my tribute to him, my salutations to him, how quickly everything was done, and we could actually scare the dragon. I would use the word scare the dragon. So General Rawat has been the pride of the army,
Yes,
of the armed forces of India.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. And before I go into the break right now, I just want to tell you, viewers, that the entire program is dedicated to General Bipin Rawat. And before I take a break and tell you what's on the other side of the break, I want to read out a tweet that has come from ADGPI, from the Indian Army. And of course, we're all mourning the loss of General Bipin Rawat, Mrs. Madhulika Rawat. And the Indian Army also conveys heartfelt condolences and stands firm in support of the bereaved families of the following personnel: Brigadier L.S. Lidda, Lieutenant Colonel H. Chauhan, Wing Commander P.S. Chauhan, Squadron Leader K. Singh, JWO Das, JWO Pradeep A, Havaldar Satpal, Naik Gursevak Singh, Naik Jitinder, Lance Naik Vivek, and Lance Naik S. Teja. I am reading out a tweet which has just been put out by the Indian Army. When we return at 10 p.m., we look at one of General Rawat's critical projects, the Theatre Command, and why it's all the more critical for India today.